This is the moment Lisa Thompson lost control. The moment 3 years of suppressed rage and grief exploded in a Target baby aisle. The moment she realized she couldn't pretend anymore that she was okay. But this breakdown, it wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning of the most impossible journey she'd ever take. One that would lead her to hear 3 words she'd stopped believing were possible. You're pregnant. If you've ever felt like your dreams were shattered beyond repair, you need to hear what happens next. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this story will change how you think about hope forever. To understand how Lisa ended up destroying a store display in front of horrified strangers, we need to go back. Back to when she still believed in happy endings. Lisa and Anthony were college sweethearts who married at 26. At 28, they decided to start their family. Lisa bought prenatal vitamins, tracked her cycle religiously, and imagined nursery themes. Anthony painted a room buttery yellow. They bought tiny onesies and argued playfully about baby names. They thought they'd be pregnant in months. 1 month passed, then 6, then 12, then 18. The fertility clinic was sterile and cold. Lisa endured test after test, blood work, ultrasounds, procedures with names she couldn't pronounce. She felt like a science experiment rather than a woman who simply wanted to be a mother. Then came the appointment that shattered everything. Dr. Richardson folded her hands and delivered the verdict. Severe endometriosis, significantly diminished ovarian reserve. Your chances of conceiving naturally are less than 5%. 5%. The phrase echoed in Lisa's skull like a death sentence. That night, she locked herself in the bathroom and screamed into a towel until her throat was raw. A piece of her future died that day, the future she'd imagined since childhood. They tried everything: IVF, hormone treatments, procedures that left Lisa bloated and exhausted. Each month became a cycle of hope and devastation. 2 weeks of waiting, then blood, always blood. Another piece of her spirit crumbling away. She stopped attending baby showers, unfollowed pregnant friends online, left family gatherings when someone asked, "When are you two having kids?" Anthony tried to stay strong. He held her when she cried, which was almost daily. He researched treatments and made appointments. But Lisa could see the grief in his eyes too. This wasn't just destroying her, it was destroying them. After their 4th failed IVF cycle, Lisa sat across from Anthony at their kitchen table. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice hollow. "Maybe we need to accept this isn't happening." 6 months of silence followed, 6 months of limbo between grief and acceptance. And then came that day in Target. Lisa had been doing fine, or so she thought, until she turned down the baby aisle by mistake. Saw the onesies, the bottles, the tiny shoes, everything she'd never have. 3 years of suppressed rage erupted, and her hands were shoving items off the shelf before her brain caught up. The incident became her rock bottom. The moment she realized she couldn't continue living in this prison of grief. "We can't keep living like this," Anthony said one evening. "We deserve to be happy again. We deserve to be parents, even if it's not the way we imagined." "What are you saying?" Lisa asked. "Adoption. Let's build our family a different way." The word hung between them. Adoption felt like surrender and salvation simultaneously. But staying in grief felt worse. "Okay," she whispered. They began the adoption process: paperwork, home visits, interviews. It was invasive and exhausting, but it was forward movement. It was hope in a different package. And slowly, impossibly, they started healing. These hopeful journeys don't always look the way we expect, Lisa realized. They went on dates again, traveled. Lisa found peace in pottery, creating something from nothing, controlling at least one thing in her life. Anthony got promoted. They laughed again, really laughed. For the first time in years, Lisa felt like herself. Their adoption application was approved. They were on the waiting list. They had rebuilt themselves. They could wait. And that's when Lisa's body decided to play the cruelest trick. Exhaustion, morning nausea, wild emotional swings. Lisa dismissed it all. She was busy with work and the adoption process. Then she missed her period. Normally, panic would follow, but Lisa's cycles had been irregular for years. Missing a period meant nothing, but Anthony noticed. "Lisa," he said carefully one morning as she rushed from the bathroom, "when was your last period?" She froze, saw that dangerous expression on his face. "Hope." "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't give me hope. Not again. I can't survive it. I'm just saying—" "No." She grabbed her keys. "It's stress. It's nothing." That night, Anthony sat at their kitchen table with a small paper bag. She knew what was inside. "No," Lisa said immediately. "Just to rule it out," he pleaded. "Please." She wanted to scream, but she saw his face, the face of a man who'd been through hell with her. "Fine," she said, snatching the bag. "But when it's negative, we never discuss this again." Inside, Lisa's hands trembled. She'd done this hundreds of times. Knew the routine: pee on the stick, wait, see one line, cry. But this time she was terrified. What if it was positive? What if, after finally finding peace, her body decided to work now? What if she miscarried and failed in a whole new way? She took the test and set it face down. Couldn't look. She walked out past Anthony and sat on their bed, staring at the wall. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Finally, she forced herself to stand, to walk back, to reach for that test. She flipped it over. 2 lines. The world stopped. 2 lines. Lisa's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, landing hard on cold tile. The test clutched in her trembling hand. She couldn't speak, couldn't process. It had to be wrong. She grabbed another test. Positive. Another. Positive. A fourth. Positive. A sound escaped her throat, something between a sob and a laugh and a scream. Anthony came running, found her on the floor, surrounded by positive tests, tears streaming, body shaking. "Lisa." She held up the tests, unable to form words. His face transformed. Disbelief. Shock. Then joy, pure, overwhelming joy. He dropped beside her, and they held each other and sobbed. Years of grief poured out, making room for something impossible. But Lisa couldn't believe it, not until a doctor confirmed it. "You're pregnant," Dr. Richardson said, genuine smile breaking through. "About 8 weeks along. Strong heartbeat." Those 3 words. "You're pregnant." The words Lisa had stopped believing she'd ever hear. They echoed in her mind like a prayer finally answered. Anthony buried his face in her shoulder and wept. Lisa stared at the screen, at that tiny flickering heartbeat, unable to process that it was real. "I know your history," Dr. Richardson said softly. "This is truly remarkable. A miracle." The car ride home was silent, not the heavy silence of grief, but shock. 2 people trying to grasp a reality that had shifted without warning. "What if I lose this baby?" Lisa asked. "I can't survive that." Anthony pulled over and turned to face her. "Then we survive together, like everything else. But Lisa, you can't live 9 months in fear you'll miss what is happening. Right now." He was right. But how did you unlearn years of bracing for disappointment? That evening, Lisa entered the nursery for the first time in over a year. Everything was frozen in time. The crib, the rocking chair, the children's books. All covered in dust, waiting. She sat on the floor, hands on her stomach. No bump yet. But life was there. Impossibly there. She closed her eyes. All those moments rushed back. Needles, disappointments, procedures, grief, rage at her body for failing. The jealousy, the missed baby showers, the mother's days that felt like funerals. How she'd felt broken, defective, worthless. All of it washed over her, then receded. Because here she was, pregnant, after everything. But something had shifted during those years of pain. Lisa had believed her worth was tied to her fertility. She'd measured her value by what her body could do. Losing that dream forced her to rebuild from scratch, to find worth in who she was, not what her body could produce. And she had. This pregnancy didn't erase those years, didn't undo the grief. But it proved something. Hope, even when it seems dead, can resurrect itself when you least expect it. 3 months passed, then 4, 5. Each ultrasound showed a growing baby, strong heartbeat, everything progressing normally. Lisa waited for her body to betray her one final time, but it didn't. By month 6, Lisa's belly was undeniable. She'd feel kicks and sometimes laugh, sometimes cry, sometimes both. People would congratulate her, and she'd smile. But inside, the truth was more complicated. She was excited, terrified, grateful, still grieving, still healing, still learning to trust her body, all of it, all at once. And they were still pursuing adoption. Their application remained active. This baby didn't negate their desire to adopt. If anything, it strengthened it. Lisa stood in front of her phone camera one evening and decided to share her story. "If you're struggling with infertility, I see you," she said, hand on her belly. "The pain is real, the grief is valid, you're not overreacting." She paused. "I'm not here to say just relax and it'll happen, that's insulting. My story happened to have this ending, but not everyone's will. And that doesn't make their stories less beautiful or their families less complete." Her voice caught. "Here's what I learned. My worth was never tied to my ability to have a biological child. These years taught me resilience I didn't know I had. They deepened my marriage, they made me more compassionate. And they made me appreciate this moment in a way I might never have otherwise." She took a breath. 3 years ago, when I was surrounded by negative tests, when I couldn't imagine this day, I was still worthy, still whole, still enough. If you're in that place now, you are too. With or without a baby, with or without the future you imagined, you are enough. The video resonated. Thousands of comments from women with similar stories. Women still waiting, women who'd stopped waiting, women who'd built families in unexpected ways. All connected by struggle, by pain, by hopeful journeys that didn't look the way they expected. 3 months later, Lisa gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Hope, because that's what she represented. Not just hope that came true, but hope that sustained them through years when nothing went right. Hope that was buried and resurrected until finally, impossibly, it bloomed. But this isn't where the story ends. 2 years after Hope was born, the adoption agency called. A birth mother had chosen them. 6 months later, they brought home a baby boy named Anthony Jr. Their family, built through years of pain and patience, through biological miracle and adoption choice, through every form of love imaginable, was complete. Not the way they'd imagined. Better, more complex, more beautiful, more real. Lisa thinks about those 3 words often. "You're pregnant?" The words that changed her life. But she's realized those weren't the only 3 words that mattered. "You are enough." 3 words she'd had to learn to believe when everything fell apart. Now, watching Hope and Anthony Jr. play together, she understands that the heartwarming stories we tell ourselves about how life should go are often just stories. Real life is messier, harder, more painful, but it's also capable of more beauty, more resilience, more different kinds of happy endings than we ever imagined. Her journey through infertility didn't end with a pregnancy. It ended with understanding she was never broken, even when her body didn't work the way she wanted. That families come in infinite forms, that miracles sometimes happen, and sometimes they don't, and we're worthy either way. That the reel of stories worth telling aren't the easy ones. They're the ones where we survive the impossible and come out changed, scarred, but somehow more whole. If this story touched your heart, if you've lived your own impossible journey, or if you're still waiting for your miracle, leave a comment below. Share your story. Hit that subscribe button and join a community where we hold space for real stories, real struggles, and real hope. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is share our truth. Subscribe now, and let's support each other through whatever journey we're on.